Concord really broke every record and shattered all expectations by being such a massively devastating failure that it got shut down so close to launch that even most houseflies outlived it. I'm pretty sure there's not a single other game that ever saw the light of day that died this quickly. Even other failures at least tried going into early access again or going free to play before fully getting shut down. But Concord is just built different.
Oh shit!
And there definitely were multiple reasons for that failure. It was a hero shooter live service game, one of the most flooded gaming sectors imaginable, while offering nothing that would make it stick out next to the other ones that are already dominating the market. Well, it was also published by Sony, a company primarily known for their story-focused single-player games, and it also cost money, while literally all of its competitors are free-to-play. They really were confident with this one. But the reason I think the game failed the hardest was its characters, the most important thing of every hero shooter. The game is trying its hardest to have these wacky and colorful designs of all these different alien characters while trying to be as realistic as possible, making all of the characters look like they are wearing just random stuff they found around the room to make cheap cosplays. They definitely went for some sort of Guardians of the Galaxy style aesthetic, but everyone just looks so unremarkable that they could basically just be the background characters from the actual movies. And I want to attempt and change that today. I picked out 3 characters from Concord and I'm going to try and fix their designs to make them more unique, stylized and appealing. But I've talked for long enough, let's finally get started with the actual characters. The first character we have is Starchild. He was an interesting one. He was basically one of my favorites from the entire game, and I definitely had a few problems with him. For example, his design overall looks just kind of weird to me, with him basically just being blue, with some hairy bits of also blue hair, some random like gold-plated parts on his body, and then his face being red like that just makes him look like one of these monkeys that have these like redly faces that just look inflamed to me, I don't know. I just think it is a very weird design choice that I wanted to attempt to fix. So the first thing I did was working on that face, because I also just thought he looks way too like bald. So I tried to fix that by giving him more hair, making him more berserker-like. Because I also tried to like implement more of the abilities into the actual character design, because I also think a lot of the characters don't actually show their actual abilities just from like looking at their designs. For example, Starchild is entirely focused around being basically a berserker type. His entire like character is centered around like getting stronger, also being able to dash. I think it was also called a diamond skin, which was probably what this like golden metal stuff was on his body. But that was just the first thing that I wanted to do. I also tried making him more stylized, giving him bigger arms, making his torso like bigger overall, making his legs a little bit smaller, just giving him like a more elongated physique. I basically also didn't change anything about the lower body, I just like simplified it a little bit, because I don't really think that needs a change. It was pretty okay. Then I applied more red over the body, because like I said, I don't like that only his face was red for some reason. So I changed it up to make more of his body parts actually have this color. I also made his hair a different color. I made it slightly more grayish, lighter, so that it isn't just literally the same color as his skin. I really think that is a weird design decision, and in this case I mainly focused on making him blue, red and brown as his main colors, and we're basically done. Also with a few highlights to make the actual diamond skin pop out a little bit more, to make it look more shiny. But yeah, this is my attempt at trying to redesign Starchild. You obviously don't have to like my attempt at trying to make him look better. My main goal here definitely was mostly just to make him look more appealing to myself, obviously. So a lot of these designs are definitely just gonna represent my personal taste in character designs, and I'm a big fan of this, because if you've seen the first reveal trailer of him, you could see that he's like this big and burly character, but he is like very like shy, quiet, and I like that a lot. And I wanted to just like put it more to the extremes, making him look way more berserker-like, with like the horns that I gave him, with the flesh teeth he has. But yeah, give me your feedback about his redesign in the comments, and let's just go to the next one. The next one on the list is Roka. The entire theme seems to be centered around her being a rocket launcher, little girl, and I do really like her like base concept that they have around her, with her being basically in this like very tight, skin-tight suit and being covered in like this very, very big helmet, giving her like a very mysterious and interesting look. But I also think that her design is way too simple and too complicated at the same time, with it just being like a bunch of different beige and brown tones that don't fit together in the slightest, and it just makes it look muddy with a random bit of red as her visor. And I also don't think that you can tell in the slightest that she has like flying abilities. She has like a double jump, she can hover in the air for a bit. Nothing in her design makes her reflect that, so I wanted to go and try to change that the most. I actually was inspired by two different things with this design. Mainly Psycho Mantis. I just think that he's like the perfect representation of this type of like psychic in a skin-tight suit. And the helmet basically was just inspired by the look of Q from Zero Time Dilemma, with him also being like a small childlike character that has this like big round helmet on his face with no details at all besides just these big eye sockets. And I just really like the aesthetic of that, so I just implemented it here as well. I also gave her bigger boots that are supposed to look like they are the part that make her float, with her also just having some rockets that float in her hands to show off her psychic abilities. And maybe they could also do like a funny reload animation where she just like flings them into the rocket launcher like that. It just really bothered me for some reason that she has no pouch where she gets her rockets from, so I wanted to add that. And I just gave her a bunch of tubes for the aesthetic. I also tried still keeping the design element of her suit being made out of a lot of different parts, just making it look more coherent in a sense. Also adding more tubes on her back that could be connected to the rocket launcher itself maybe. A few details to the shoes with little rockets in the back, so that it looks like they are the part that move her forward, for example. I didn't want to focus too much on the guns itself, it was mainly about the characters. So the rocket launcher looks very simple, but it shows off the concept I was going for. Also tried to implement more red. I completely removed the blue from her and completely focused around a brown and gray color scheme with a lot of red details. We've also have psychic abilities when she floats and holds the rockets, being surrounded by red energy to keep everything coherent about the color scheme. And this is her final design. Same as last time, please give me your feedback about my ideas, because all of these characters are just my first drafts. These are literally just design concepts I made on the fly without any preparation or anything. This is just the thoughts I had about the original concepts and how I would like them to look. So definitely give me your feedback. I would be really interested in what you think about my new direction for the character. And last but not least is Lennox, the supposed main character of the franchise. And I am very sorry, I can't say it any other way, but for our main character, he looks like the most basic ass thing imaginable. He has nothing that makes him stick out. He has spikes, he's green skin and spikes with a blue overall that just makes him look like a janitor with a orange warning vest. I guess it looks so weird. And just looking at his moveset, you can see he has he's basically Cassidy from Overwatch with having the dodge roll. He has a knife that explodes. That is not from Cassidy, but you could say that it's basically just Cassidy's grenade. But the unique thing about him, he has two revolvers and he can switch between them to load the other one. So that makes him more unique, I guess. But still, the design is so incoherent. I literally was unable to tell he has anything to do with a cowboy theme until I actually looked at the design and noticed, oh, he's wearing cowboy boots. Because I'm sorry, he just looks like a fucking janitor to me. Maybe there's a story in the background that he is a janitor. He was a janitor or something. But I don't care, I just think it looks stupid. So the first thing I tried to do is work with his concept of being this lizardy, spiky creature and just focusing more on that, making his face less human, giving him more spikes across the board, making his ears spiked, making his spikes on his arms bigger, making his beard more spiky, removing his nose, basically just giving him a Voldemort type nose to make it look more not human, making his eyes sharper, and also making his eyebrows just spikes. Also giving him more claw-like fingers. I did struggle a little bit to get this Mexican standoff pose. And of course, you can't have a cool space cowboy without a cool cape. So I redesigned his orange vest thingy into being more of armor with a cape, while still keeping the main design. I still tried to keep this entire design very similar actually, if you look at this. I mainly just changed his face, his hands, and slightly how his armor works. The entire lower part of the body basically stayed the same. I just made the boots higher and gave him knee guards, metal knee guards, not these weird thingies he has currently. Also kind of reworking this overall thingy that it is just his legs and the side of his body, but he wears something underneath that just makes it look more interesting instead of just being this one blue thing he wears. And for the colors I also stayed very similar, making his claws and spikes a little bit darker than his skin, also giving him more of like a pattern to make him look more lizardy, making his hands darker entirely to the same color of the spikes, and then making like a little scaly gradient between his hands and the arms that go up to his body. Still keeping the orange vest, but to make the orange thing less random on his upper torso, I gave him a few orange scales as well, and I also made the tips of the claws and his nails orange, just so that the color just doesn't feel as out of place as it does right now. I also entirely removed the blue, turned it into a dark gray and a brown to make it look more nice. Also to just give him a more otherworldly feel. I didn't give him white eyeballs, I gave him dark gray eyeballs, which I also think gives him a sort of cunning look, because I definitely got a feeling of him being more of like a trickster type, which just tries to be like very funny and quippy, but at the same time also having like the smart side about him and always knowing what's going on, even in dire situations. And this is my final concept for his redesign. I am definitely really happy about how these three little guys turned out. Again, I also want you to give me feedback for Lennox. All of these designs are obviously still in a very like sketchy phase. I just wanted to like get the design ideas across in this like very like small video while I'm working on bigger projects on the side. And who knows, if you liked the idea of me just redesigning random characters in an attempt of making them look more appealing, maybe I'm gonna make a sequel to this and redesign more characters from Concord, or maybe something else, I don't know. Give me ideas in the comments. In the meantime, I'm gonna continue working on the next Necromancer video. See you next time.